So today I am really excited to have Christine on the show. She is absolutely the brains behind the Growth Shifter branding and my website. She's dragged me kicking and screaming through the creation process this year. And the whole time I was just so impressed about how you were able to kind of keep the processes going, how you were always on top of everything. And I just really have wanted to, for some time, talk about, what your client processes are, what customer service looks like for you, and just to dig into all of that. But before we do all that, would you like to tell the people who don't know how amazing you are yet, what it is that you're doing?
Thank you so much, Liz. I feel like you've done such a great job already introducing and such a warm welcome. So I'm so excited to dive into all of this with your listeners today. I'm Christine Lieu-Guzauskas. I am the founder of CL Designs and the Brand Party podcast, where I help purpose-driven businesses like Liz and nonprofits as well with their cohesive branding to website design to marketing collateral to really help you increase your impact and sales, and also have a podcast of my own called Brand Party, where it's all about free, fun, honest, actionable tips that you can implement right into your own entrepreneurial journey.
I think it's so great that you've been able to create the podcast and the services, and that you've been able to niche down into serving businesses that, as you call, are purpose driven, things that matter to you. Um, and so I'm wondering what led you on this path? What led you to decide that this is how you wanted your business to look?
Yeah, it's been really intentional from the very beginning, I would say. Like to give some context as well, I had a previous business over maybe like nearly 15 years ago now, where it was a streetwear apparel business called In Lieu of, and it was a
Hmm.
fun spin-off of my last name and very much in lieu of what I needed at that point in my life, but also came during a time of a lot of grief. And so it made me really reflect on, the loss of loved ones, where I wanted to think about what was the legacy that I wanted to create, what is the way that I want to show up in the world, and how does that connect to other people, and why does it matter truly? And so it's kind of led me on that journey perhaps over the last 15 years in the industry of things. But when I had been really burning myself out on both ends of the candle while working in corporate and as a creative person, maybe a lot of other listeners can relate that I get bored very easily. And so I was juggling a lot of things at the same time while working within corporate and freelancing at the same time. So thankfully, before the pandemic, I decided to bet on myself, like booked a one-way ticket, like left everything behind and started this journey of CL Designs now. And it's been over 7 years at this point of the time that you're listening to this episode. And, being able to truly believe in that design can change the world in that way.
That's, I think, such a lesson for us to take away, that you just have to actually step out and bet on yourself at some point, and just do it.
Yeah, it's
And
scary.
it's scary, but it's so worth it, right?
Mhm.
And it's inspiring for me as someone who, is finally just making my work into something cohesive that I can show people. It's really inspiring. And I want to lead into how you approach the customer service and customer processes, because it seems to me that your level of customer care is beyond anything that I've ever experienced before. And it it seems to me like that is all part and parcel of the purpose of CL Designs, and just the way you're approaching business overall. Would you say am I accurate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking back about this too, of like our interaction and journey, even together creatively, of this that, y your reaction, I think, when we did wrap up officially too, was probably one of the most heartwarming, like, kindest moments that I've had in my own journey of like over the 7 years as well. Like it brings me to tears, like thinking about it all the time. Like it's been one of my favorites, if I can say that.
Well, thank you. And I mean, I'd like to think that I wasn't alone in the, showing up to your branding days, intensives, just like hair all over the place. I've slept 2 hours and, just like coming into it scattered, frankly. And you just were able to so calmly and so kindly say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what I need from you. And, lay it out just very carefully. Here are the steps so that, I'm not sitting there all day hyperventilating into a paper bag. Um, and is this like a process that you came up with right away, or has it refined over time based on client need?
Yeah, a bit of both, I should say. Like, I think that as you start to figure out and throw spaghetti at the wall at the beginning of your journey, perhaps, that you kind of decide and figure out, hopefully very quickly, what you don't like and what's not really working so that you can get to a point where it is thriving and it's working and it's optimized for a lot of things so that it can allow you more capacity. For me, it's really important to be able to show up with like compassion and generosity and all of these things that you're noting, right? Because I think on one hand, yes, we can get things done quickly and pretty and aesthetically and all the things that design can do, but also I think that we should enjoy and celebrate the process along the way equally. You want to be able to actually walk away and feel good about it, even if you were running on 2 hours of sleep. And so if you do feel a bit more reassured or supported, knowing that you're not the only one who shows up, feeling maybe like you're behind or unprepared in some way, like that's what all that preparation at the very beginning of the VIP design process is so integral to be able to actually execute on such a high level and caliber on the actual day of, right?
Now, do you find that there's one thing that clients are more likely to drop the ball on than anything else?
I think the hardest part, especially like I'm very clear about my zone of genius being design and execution in that way. And so
Hmm.
I don't necessarily do any of the writing of the content, for example,
Yeah.
or the brand photography that does a lot of the heavy lifting and positioning of things that can bring the story to life so much in a more compelling way visually too when I am designing. So I think that's like the usually the bottleneck of things typically, or if it's just timing that it's a very busy season personally or professionally for the business owner that I'm working with, and we all understand that too.
I mean, I think looking back on it, there's no ideal time to do to do a rebrand or to start the branding process from scratch. There's really no such thing as an actual downtime in the business that you can say like, okay, I'm going to just clear everything off for a whole week and I'm going to focus on this. So it's yeah, I think it's important that people figure out how to prioritize it. But speaking for myself, like I thought I was prioritizing it, and then we'd get on the calls and like, oh, I totally didn't do this part. And I, especially the first day, I was like madly writing in the background while you were off doing the design of other sections.
I mean, you know what? It's one of those things like 99% of my clients are women as well.
Uh,
And so, like, I think as female entrepreneurs, especially, that we often put ourselves and our needs sometimes at the very bottom of our to-do list. And so I'm
yeah.
guilty of that equally too. And especially in a busy season or where you feel like a lot of your responsibilities are pulled in a million different directions on
Yes.
a given even minute. And
Yeah.
so I think that this way it's really nice to be able to have kind of a third party lens and perspective to come in, be able to have more of a neutral, maybe unbiased, non-judgmental view of things to come in, really get you out of the weeds of things like here's the kick in the butt that maybe you needed 6 months ago, and we're here to do it now in a day together, in opposed to it living rent free in your head for all those months or even years.
I think that is a real selling point for anyone to, finally pull the trigger and do the brand redesign is if it's been living rent free in your head for months and years, like that's just wasted time and energy when you could actually be hiring someone like Christine to do the work and get something out there. Like, I mean, I can say for myself that I had another website that was under a different service provider, and it went from very easy to use to suddenly very much not easy to use. And I would say I spent more than double the amount of time we spent on the VIP days trying to fix this thing and trying to make it work. And I felt like everything that I tried to do just made it look worse. And and it really was maybe a process that I had to go through to just say, okay, I've reached my maximum tolerance, and now it's time to leverage someone else's expertise who can like really go in and make something look special as opposed to bubblegum and string and just trying to make something that was like functional, but not, not at the caliber of what you can do.
Well, I mean, as exhausting and frustrating, and I'm sure all of the emotions that come along with it, I do really appreciate clients who do try so much in that process because I think that's where the you come out on the other side with so much clarity. And that's like exactly what you did bring to. Like you don't need to show up, I believe, with, the designer vocabulary of things. Like that's what your designers are meant to really help navigate and guide you, I believe too. And so like, yeah, come as you are. Like we're gonna, meet you where you're at ultimately and help you get to where you want to be. Because I know for you too, like you had so many years of experience and so
Mhm.
many amazing results that you've gotten your clients and just like transformations that you've had within your own work over the years and even accolades and all these things too that weren't necessarily mentioned on the previous brand or website. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited that the world gets to know like more of you and like where you're headed and what you can do for people too. Because yeah, if we're not being able to share that with people, then people just don't know what they don't know.
I think maybe business owners can get kind of attached to one element of their messaging. And for me, that attachment was a lot around this is what I used to be, and this is a story about why I'm doing this work, as opposed to focusing on the body of work that's built up like over, in my case, decades that, I just kept like defaulting back to talking about things that now in my trajectory maybe aren't as important, that are still worth mentioning, but aren't as important as this is what I've done for clients. This is what I've been able to speak out about. These are the, human rights issues that I care about, that I've spent so many years working on. And I think sometimes that needs an outside perspective to say like, okay, this is how you can balance that. This is how you can fold that in, but we can like build your messaging out to something much bigger.
As a business owner too, I will say it's like one of the most courageous things that you can choose to do and be in your life. And so it does take a level of self-awareness in that growth journey, but also then being challenged to show up in a different way and different identity in so many ways. And so I think that's what the beauty and catalyst of design can do in many ways is like it gives you the tools and resources. And for me, what's really important too of sharing with my clients was being able to provide like autonomy. Ultimately, I truly believe that you should feel like you know your content best at the end of the day. So I want to
Hmm.
empower my clients ultimately to go in if there is like a typo or you want to change pricing on your website, like you have the power to do that at any given moment. You don't need to, hire me out again for those like minute things, unless you want to do a bigger overhaul of sorts, or like you can save your marketing dollars, is really refreshing as well, because I think that's where a lot of design companies, unfortunately, they make it transactional in that way.
Hmm.
And then you can feel that as well. And it shifts the energy of how you show up because then you become resentful perhaps of what they've created. And then you don't end up showing up of yourself or those byproducts in the world either.
Yeah, I think one thing I really appreciated about your process is that you gave me videos of our calls and these tutorials that I can go and look back on. And and it's funny because it's the first time that I've had someone else do a website for me. And for the first few weeks, I went through this thing of like feeling like here's this digital Fabergé egg, and I don't want to touch it. Like I don't want to risk dropping it. And when I went in to publish my first blog post after the ones that you helped me put up at the beginning, I thought like, oh my gosh, I'm going to break this website, and then I'm going to have to call Christine and tell her that I broke what she created. And I think, based on what I've seen from other designers, that they do try to keep sort of keep the keys to the car, as it were, and
Mhm.
that, if there's anything to post, like they want to be able to be the ones posting it. Um, but you're able and you're willing to hand that back to the business owners and say, like, here's this thing we created. Now you can go and do it. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, I know you do offer to support, beyond the initial creation phase if people want to, but that you're still willing and able to, not get, I don't know what the word is, overly attached, maybe, to
I th
it.
yeah, I mean, you know what? I think I've really realized over the years, like I'm really great at setting up strong foundations for you. Like I
Hmm.
truly believe you have the power to do things, and like I want you to feel that at the end of working together too. And like it doesn't stop, as you know too, like after we end up finishing working together, like I don't just go ghost you and you never hear from me again. Like I love getting to check in and hear about how things are going and yeah, if you do need support along the way, I am here and a message away. But also, I think there's a level of respect that I have for my clients as well. Like, I truly believe in you and your business as much as you do, and that's why I feel like we're partners in that sense alongside each other in many ways and creatively doing this in the world versus, you've hired me, I am your design slave to, create XYZ output, especially in a world of AI that you could
Hmm.
choose. But I think there's just so much more good that we can create in the world when there's really strong relationships and a level of respect for people.
Okay, so this is like an abrupt pivot, but I need to ask you the question that I've been burning to ask since we were working together. And maybe it's just my ADHD brain that can't see it, but like I need to ask, how do you stay on top of everything? Like you were even on top of me for this podcast. And I just had to laugh because it's like, of course you are, of course you are the one who's prompting me on this. And I'm sure you have all kinds of other clients that you're dealing with, and yet you're still able to stay on top of like small details like, hey, I need that Zoom link from Liz. How do you do
Yeah.
that?
My friends who know me as well, like and our business owners too, they always jokingly say like, "Oh yeah, Christine's AI." Like, yeah. So I find it really funny that you mentioned that. But yeah, you know what? I don't have a VA or anything like that. Like
You
it's
don't.
me
Okay.
who manages like everything primarily. And so I think what it really comes down to is like values aligned thing. Like for me, relationships have always been important and having that like really nurtured touch point with people. Like I crave that for myself, but also it just feels really good, I think, on the receiving end of it as well. And so I think I'd always try to just go into things with compassion and care that like yeah, there's lots of battles that people are dealing with that we have no idea about. And
Hmm.
like, how can I show up in a supportive way to make their life easier at the end of it? And so if that means like, yeah, prompting for a recording link and, I think it just comes back to what really matters to you. Like
Hmm.
I really care about it. And so, all to say though, I do have thankfully some really holy grail tools that I love and like systems that I've set up in place within my own business to help
Please
support
share
that.
those.
So, like for me, like my Google Calendar is like the biggest thing. I love color coding it,
Hmm.
especially to even just like little reminders for myself of like every day that I have in there. Actually, I have a dedicated lunch break, to
Good.
refuel
Good.
or at the end of the workday too, I have this like little calendar reminder for the longest time now that says, let's get this party started. And it's just a nice way to shift that energy and like mentality over because we can easily just keep working.
Yeah.
And then I will say we I really love Asana is my like MVP in my team, I like to say as well. So it just keeps me really organized with all of the project boards and clients that I'm working with on an ongoing basis and can kind of see what's coming up on in the next week, next month. And so just to help prepare and plan ahead. But constantly, I think it comes back to capacity for me and like, how can I expand that?
That sounds so streamlined, and it's not a
Mhm.
million tools, it's just two.
Yeah. I think keep it
Yeah.
simple has been my biggest lesson out of it
Hmm.
too. I keep it pretty lean, like fine, like economically, I should say too, in terms of like the tools that I use and like what are the most necessary things that I have tested and tried over the years that these are going to really like keep things easy and like simple.
So the one last thing I want to ask you is about how you market your business, because I can say that going on your own website and seeing the videos upon videos of client testimonials, it was just another area of which where I was just blown away by how you have your business organized. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how marketing has evolved within your business and how you've come to the process that you have now and what your goals are for 2026 around marketing.
Ooh, yeah, that's such a loaded one. I mean, in one part, let's start with maybe what it was before. I really wanted my work to speak for itself. I did not want to be the face anywhere whatsoever. I like really just wanted my design work to kind of be out into the world, sprinkled throughout, but not necessarily having to show up in a certain way. And so that's evolved a lot since. If you come visit me over on Instagram or the website, there's a lot more of me on there. But I truly feel like throughout the process of uh, just like being able to continue with business as well, like those relationships have always been the most important part of it for me. And it was undeniable as well that building that human connection and being able to have relatability and like putting a face to the name of like more of a personal brand side, perhaps too, and twist of it. Even if you have a lean business, it really does make the world of difference. And so leaning into that, I decided I'm going to show up in a different way. And so I have poured like a lot more into my marketing per se too, and like the content that I create and like the website to your point too. So, I mean, do speak on different like keynotes and workshop facilitation as well for different programs across Canada and the world. But also as part of doing that, it really reminds me every single time how integral market research is. And I've always been a firm believer of that too. If you have the ability and privilege to be able to have access to knowledge directly from your dream clients like yourself or customers in this way, then, this is the perfect time to be able to ask. It comes back to what matters, I think is the big theme of today is that it's really important for me to not assume and to really understand where people are at so that I can best support them moving forward and more people like that who might be in the same case, right? And so all to say, I love getting to wrap up these projects with these empowerment tutorials and wrap up sessions as well, where I like to ask things high level in terms of how you like to celebrate, what their favorite part or biggest takeaway was from working together, like why they chose to work together out of all the options that they may have had. And even then, like if there is any area of improvement, I definitely welcome that too throughout the process. And so it can be scary to kind of like put yourself out there for constructive criticism, but I do believe it just makes you better in that way too. And it's always iterative. It's being able to work with different personalities in that way too, and navigating that. And ultimately, I think that then being able to get the consent to move it over to, whether that's a Google review to help other people find me or having it on the website for that client love page that I have on there, or even the portfolios of the mock-ups, like it just makes it really exciting for people to get excited about their own business and what's possible when they see themselves reflected in it.
I love that how even in your even in discussing marketing, which is basically self-promotion, you're still focused on, I want the clients to be excited. I want to be able to show them why, why and how that they can be excited, what's possible. And I think that's really, it speaks highly to your values as a business owner of like what, where your focus is constantly.
Yeah, I know like a lot of people have this kind of aversion to selling themselves, for
Hmm.
example, too. And I definitely used to as well. And so I've changed the narrative and reframed it that you get to share like what you love to do ultimately with other people. And so, you do kind of need to speak out about it or put it out there into the world. Otherwise, they just don't know about it, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I love getting to reframe it that it's sharing that piece of you and what you get to love to do to help support other people and serve them. But also, just like we talked about earlier in this episode, I am normally at the bottom of my to-do list as well. And so being able to carve out that time intentionally, like whether it is through the Google Calendar or like looking ahead, the end of year, beginning of year is such a great time to kind of reassess things as well. And like what's worked really well throughout the year, what do I want more of, what type of projects that I really enjoy doing, or type of people that I liked aligning with. And so it's a really great opportunity, I think, to reflect back on that and then put that out there through your portfolio or through like case studies and, testimonials to pull from and highlight and feature. And just like making time and space for that ultimately, because it can really help other people throughout that process.
I think when we constantly put ourselves last as business owners, our businesses will suffer if we don't take these times, whether it's around the holidays or another time of year to, or even just sprinkle throughout the year to reflect on, you know, what am I doing? What do I need to be able to show up the best?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, just with growth shifters too, like even that name in itself, like I'm always growing in different ways. And so for me, like I've always taken a lot of pride of like keeping things very lean generally in my business.
Hmm.
And I like that lifestyle orientedness of it too, to pick up and go wherever I've left off. But I
Hmm.
think for me, like being able to ask for help along the way has been a big shift this year and headed into 2026, especially too. So even I just got my new like brand photos redone myself
Nice.
and being able to have, yeah, a brand photographer on board for that for quarterly shoots next year to keep things nice and fresh and
Hmm.
relevant. But also then hired another past client of mine actually to help support with some behind the scenes of like B-roll content and stuff during these shoots as well to just like
Hmm.
help
Hmm.
fill up my own bank and resources
Yeah.
to pull from. And I think that's where those foundations are so important, right? And being able to practice what I preach to other clients as well, but really doing it for myself and treating myself like a client in some ways and setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And so now, just to end off the episode and wrap it up, I like to ask guests for a recommendation. And I used to do like a much more expanded version. I'm trying to simplify that down. And so I'm going to ask you, is there either one person that we should be reading or following and one action step?
I would say my favorite book from this year has been The Secret Art of Feeling and Growing Rich. It's by two
Oh,
Asian authors. Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
okay.
I'll send you the link if you're interested to include it
Yes,
in your show
please.
notes. But I
Yeah.
was gifted this actually by a friend of mine, who's another business owner, and I've like gifted it to other people now, or like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, like opened up my library. And it's just really beautiful. I would say, like, not only is it like Asian authors that I really love, but
Hmm.
also then being able to just like hold this heart of like alignment and having and like knowing that you have all that you need and continue to attract more of it. I think that mindset piece has been the biggest shift for me to be able to then, create that version of success that it looks like for you in your life and business.
Oh, I can't wait to dig into
Mhm.
that.
And then in terms of the action item itself, I think you often hear consistency as such a buzzword in
Yes.
design and marketing. And I love it to a certain degree, but I love reframing it for people as well, that it's more about capacity. So I encourage you to reflect on how much capacity do you realistically have and to give yourself like love and care in whatever season you are in your life and business, and that being able to create more of that is going to allow you to show up in such a different way, in such a generous way to yourself and other people. That's going to have, such an impact tenfold.
And that is such a heart-filled space spot to leave this episode. Thank you so much, Christine, for being on the show and taking the time. Loved having you, and I definitely want to have you back.
Thank you so much, Liz.